Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, and shall we see what's going on a lovely little island of Fawnhollow today. And I have some exciting news for a new resident who has moved into Fawnhollow. And I will say this was extraordinarily lucky. I actually forgot most of yesterday that I needed to do a little bit of island hopping to try and find a villager. So I booted up at like 10 PM or something last night while I was playing a different game or something at the same time. And it was the second island I came to. I found this villager waiting for us, and I was like, what? I was absurdly lucky, but I suppose it makes up for that one time I did like 80 island hops or something and didn't find someone. But anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 3:23 PM on Friday, August 20th, 2021. Now for today's announcements, we have a new friend on our island. Let's give a big Fawnhollow welcome to Phoebe. Congrats Phoebe, I'm sure you enjoy island life here, and with that I'll get back to work supporting you and your enjoyment of our island. That's right, we found Phoebe. I found Phoebe on a Nook Mile Island. I don't know. I was meant to be like, we found love in a hopeless place by, I don't know who sings it, but yeah, she was just there, and I was like, am I seeing things? And she wanted to move in, and I was like, alright, fair enough. Check it out, Canopy. I bet you've never seen art like this before. Neither have I, which is why I bought it for you. I'm dying to know what you think about it, how it makes you feel, how much you love it, etc, etc. Hope it's all good, Raymond. So that's fantastic. We have a new villager to join us on this island, and it's one we wanted. So that means the only villager left that who I would like on the island, who has not yet moved in, is Borna. This is a fake one because it doesn't have an artichoke bud, if I recall. So, and plus I think we've already got that one in our museum. So thank you, Raymond, for it. Don't know where you got forge painting, but so be it. What the heck, Lily? When did you get those sunglasses? Did Amelia give them to you? That's awesome. Is this new? I've never given them these sunglasses before. Is this a new idol animation they put in? Am I losing my mind? I swear I've never seen this before. But anyway, yeah, it was a ridiculous stroke of good luck, and you know, I don't believe in, you know, the gambler's fallacy or anything like that. Well, sorry, hold on. Let me rephrase. I do believe in the gambler's fallacy, but of course I don't. I mean, like I believe in its existence, but I don't believe. I don't think along that line of thinking. If that's what I mean. Meaning I'm not subject to the gambler's fallacy is what I mean. The gambler's fallacy being like, you know, if you're playing, I think the example they always use is if you're playing like roulette or something and it lands on red like 6 times in a row, the gambler goes like, well, now I'm going to bet on black because it landed on red 6 times in a row. It's got to land on black this time. In roulette, red and black is roughly 50-50. It's not quite 50-50. Well, I mean, in ratio to each other, I guess it's 50-50, but because there's a green square, it's not technically 50-50. It's more like, I don't know, 24 out of... Doesn't make sense. 24 out of 20 out of 50 and 24 out of 50, something like that. But yeah, essentially 50-50. What am I doing? What Nogma missions do we have? I immediately forgot, just like all of them. Water, rocks, craft trees, buy. Water, rocks, craft trees, buy. Okay, sure. Yeah, the gambler's fallacy, yeah, if you don't know, is just being like, not being able to distinguish between events which happen in the past influencing events which will happen now, I suppose is probably the best way to put it. Things which happen in the past, no, it's more like thinking of events in sequences when not realizing that you need to think of events in individuals once the events have already happened. So like events which have already happened, if they're mutually exclusive to an event which is going to happen now, they'll have no effect over it in the beginning. And it's the understanding that being like, in this example, like flipping coins, hello Phoebe, heads like 5 times in a, hold on, we'll talk about after we talk to Phoebe. Hey dear, guess what? I finally grit my teeth and moved here. We're neighbours. I just felt like it was time to move on, you know? Although that island was pretty rad, Sparky. Well, I got an actual ton of unpacking to do, so I'm going to get back to that. See you around. I've got to get this place ship-shaped, sharp as Sparky. Am I kidding? It's going to take me days. What have I got myself into? It's really dumb because you came by to talk to me, but stumbled into my disaster area. Tell you what, swing by tomorrow. Things will be in much better shape, I hope. What did LaBelle want us to dress up as? I don't know. But yeah, for example, the fact that you flip 5 heads in a row is pretty rare in the first place, but flipping 5 heads and followed by a tails is pretty rare, but after 5 heads have already been flipped, flipping tails is still 50-50 is what I meant to say. Did she say smart or school-like? I don't know. She gave us an emblem blazer, so that's my guess. I'm not explaining this very well for someone who did statistics, which is stupid. It's basically, you know, probabilistically, the probability of the entire event happening is different to the probability of like the final event happening, or like any individual event happening. Because especially in the case of things like, why did I put that in storage? Get that out there. You know, we have limited storage space. Especially for situations like a coin flip or like a roulette wheel, all of those events are mutually exclusive to each other. We should actually clear out our storage. Now I'm looking at it. It's a little bit full. Put this away. I think that's what we'll do after this. We'll put on some smart looking clothes, and then, you know, we'll get our Taylor tickets and we'll move on. I can't string together a coherent thought right now because I'm trying to talk about it. Okay. So the probability of a chain of events happening is not equal to the probability of a smaller subset chain of events happening, given that the previous events have already happened. And that's a thing which I think is most confusing, because even when I was much younger, like, because I had an interest in especially probabilities and stuff like that when I was younger, but without having the formal education, I suppose, of it, is that, to be fair, the gambler's fallacy confused me a lot as well. I was like, I couldn't reconcile in my head being like, okay, if I flip 9 heads in a row, and I'm like, I need to flip it, I'm going to flip a coin now, is it heads or tails? I can understand that's 50-50, but I can't understand how then, if I flip heads, me getting 10 heads in a row is now not like infinitesimally improbable, or not really, it's more like 1 over 2 to the 10, which is not infinitesimal, but still. Well, you should think about it this way. Is the easier way to think about it is the fact that you got to that situation, it was already a 1 over 2 to the 9 probability in the first place. You know, you're already in the exceedingly rare situation in the first place. Now you're looking at the final coin toss, you're in that 50-50. It doesn't actually matter. And that's not the rare situation anymore. Now if you're like, oh, okay, what if I get 9 more heads from there? Then you're back in the infinitesimally small, or actually just very tiny probabilities all over again. And that, you know, reconciled it for me. Just the explanation that it's like you're already in the super rare timeline. So the whole event of having 10 heads in a row, yes, extraordinarily rare, but you're already in the 9 heads in a row timeline. So you're already like most of the way there, if anything. And I mean, that's how I think about it in my head, even though it's not quite, it's got a bit more rigour to it, except for I can't, not sure if I can quite explain it properly, at least while playing Animal Crossing at the same time, and or just through words rather than actually trying to write it down. But, you know, probability is always very interesting about sort of thing, and I feel like it's very easy, but the human mind is not good at probabilities, is basically what I say. We vastly like over and underestimate probabilities all the time, from as I understand it. Put these things in storage. No, we're clearing things out. Also, we should probably pick up these gifts which are on the floor. We vastly overestimate and underestimate probabilities all the time, like, because it happens all the time in games, especially in strategy games like XCOM and things that are similar to it. And you might say, what do you mean? Well, the thing is, in XCOM, it seems to be a very deterministic game, like all the only things which has a bit of variability into it is like if you try and attack an enemy, Joy-Con drift, you went a bit wide there. If you try and attack an enemy, there's a like say 50% chance you'll have an X% chance you'll miss, or X% chance you'll hit. I can't remember how, probably the hit percentage chance. And that seems to be really the only variability that appears in XCOM. So you would have thought, you know, people who do it will have a pretty good judgment of those probabilities. But as it turns out, in XCOM, they actually don't tell you the correct probabilities. They actually tell you probabilities that are far, is it more generous or less generous? No, the probabilities in actuality are far more generous than what we display. So if something says 10% chance to hit, it would actually be something like a 20% chance to hit. And that's the case for all difficulties except for the very, very hardest difficulty, where they actually, behind the scenes, the probability for something to hit is actually what it says. So if it says 10%, so in all modes, if it says like 10%, in easy maybe it'll give you like a 30% chance to hit or something, and then in hard maybe it'll give you like a 20% chance, but only in expert does it actually give you a 10% chance to hit. And then it's interesting because the human psyche is not very good at estimating these sort of things. For some reason, every time we see something like 60% chance of probability of something to happen, we're just like, oh, that's above 50%, so it's going to happen. That's something for some reason our brain subconsciously does, which obviously saying it out loud makes no makes no sense. If something has a 60% chance of hitting, it's got a 60% chance of hitting. That's only slightly better than a 50-50 toss. It's not guaranteed to happen. But for some reason, intrinsically in our brain, we're just like, because it's above 50-50, I'm not sure if that's quite the cut-off line, but it's just we're really bad at estimating them is kind of a crux of issue, is what I'm coming to. We see it and we're just like, that's like close enough to something which will be, that would actually work, or will actually hit. So when it doesn't miss, we're just like, oh, this game's broken, it's so like rigged, And you might feel it as well if you've ever played something which uses percentages and probabilities, and it's like 90% chance to hit. You're in your mind, whether maybe subconsciously, maybe consciously, you're just like, you might read it as 90% and you might think to yourself, oh, that's 90%, but like, I suppose intrinsically you internalize it as being, oh, this is going to hit. Because 90% is basically 100% rounding. So if you round it a little bit, so that, and 100% is guaranteed. So then when it misses, you're just like, the game's broken. Or you might not necessarily think this, but I feel like it's a very human reaction to instinctively go like, the game's broken. And I've done that as well before, I think it happens most in shiny colours or something, because there's percentage chances that you can fail an event. It's essentially what happens in the game. And then, I won't risk anything which is like above 5%. Sometimes I risk 8%. And then every time it fails, like, I can feel it in my brain just goes, that's rubbish. Not that aggressively, but I'm just like, game's broken, come on, it was only 5%. But you never think about it in like a long stretch of things, that through one run, you might do like 20 of these, more than 20 of these events. In fact, you would do like 32 of these events. If you keep doing these 5% ones, of course, over multiple runs, you're going to fail some of them. And in fact, ever since I really thought about that and tried to consciously pay attention to the sort of percentages that appear and how often I fail them, I feel like it's more generous than it should be. I feel like I pass more of them than I should, which is weird, It's interesting how my brain needs to lie to you, and I'm pretty sure that XCOM thing is correct, because I feel like I watched a video about some XCOM devs talking about it, where they were just like, even the people the professionals who are good at XCOM were just like, oh, the super expert mode is too difficult. It's too hard, despite it being the only honest one when it comes to probabilistically. Okay, probably not every one of those XCOM experts, but it was quite common from just be like, it's too unfair, it's too difficult, when it's really just literally what it's giving you. And I suppose by me talking about this, it's meant to be like, oh, maybe it can sort of illuminate to you your own personal biases, especially when it comes to estimating probability. Try not to fall into these sort of traps of being like, oh, 20%, that's basically never going to happen, and then if it happens, you're like, what? 20% is still 1 in 5. If you do this event 5 times, you expect to get it once. And then, another, oh, hello, lost random bag. Another very common thing as well is to be like, this thing has 1 in 10 chance of happening, and then you do it 10 times and it doesn't happen. You're like, why didn't this happen? That's not quite how probability works. I believe the expected number of times it would happen would be once in 10 times, but you're not guaranteed to have it happen. And it's not exceedingly unlikely for it to not happen in that 1 in 10 times. That's like 0.9 to the 10, which is, I don't know, I'm going to guess that's around 30%. Let's see. 0.9 to the power of 10. 35%. That's about a 35% chance of it not happening in 10 tries. That's not that low. That's one in 3 stretches of 10 attempts. And I feel like there's super common, especially with like gacha games and that sort of thing. Because that's like kind of one of the main game mechanics, I suppose, where you do things a long stretch of time with low probability odds. Like, if you have 1% chance of getting like that 5-star, that ultra rare character or super rare character, whatever, and then you play 100 times and you don't get one, you're just like, this game's rigged. It doesn't make any sense. I should have one by now. You shouldn't have one by now. You've probably got you're in that unlucky quote 30%. Not that unlucky, to be honest. It's not much lower as 1 in 3. That's pretty common. You're one of those 1 in 3 who didn't get 1 in 100. I mean, you might even do 200 boys, and you'd be like, I still didn't get it. That's unlucky. And you're like, this game is rigged. This game's actually broken. I should have 2 of them. You've expected numbers to, but you still got like I'm gonna guess like a 5% chance of not getting a single 1 in 200 pulls. Let's check out 0.99 to the power of 200. Oh, it's actually 1. What? It's 13%. See, that's even higher than I thought it was going to be. Wait. You're on about 1 in 10 timeline, or you pull 200 times and you didn't get it once. It happens. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way, like, look at you, you're so pathetic, you don't understand how probabilities work, but it's just sort of just like trying to explain to you. that's how bad the odds are. The odds are even worse. The odds are even more not in your favour than you think. Because I think it's very easy in these sort of games, and definitely I was subject to it as well when I played them all with a much more naive mindset. It's like, oh, you know, the probability of me getting this certain card or character is like 1%. If I save up 100, I'm going to get them. Nah, that's not how it works. In the long run, if you did like 1 million sets of 100 pulls, you would be expected to pull one of them on average. But that's not happens. You're doing this set of 100 pulls once. So you can't really judge it by that metric. You might get lucky. You might get it in the first pull. You might get super unlucky. You might have to hit 50. You might have to pull 300 times. And you still wouldn't get it. And that's exactly the point. Humans are so bad at estimating probability for some reason. I'm not sure why. This is something I should look into more, but my assumption is because we take so many shortcuts when we try estimating things that we tend to round things up too much, too far and too down. And it's a similar situation. I can't remember who made a video about this, but they made a video and they were just like, I don't know what we need to customize, probably the watering can. They're like, okay, how about we play this game? We'll flip a coin. If it's head, I give you £20. If it's tails, you give me £10. You should take that, because the expected value, this is mildly different, I suppose. The expected value for you there is positive. It's like what the expected gain you get is plus £5, right? But, you know, most people were just like, no. And then the person kept like increasing it over and over and over again, being like, okay, what if I gave you what if I gave you £30, you gave me £10? And most people were still like, no, despite the fact the value of that is still in your favour. And then eventually most people had to get to like, okay, what if I gave you £50 and you gave me £10? And then they were like, okay, sure, I'll take that then. It's just like, the expected value from that is plus £20. Like, you were good from step 1 in the first place, you know? You should have taken that, in a mathematical sense, you should have taken that opportunity much earlier. You should have taken it immediately. I mean, in this case it worked out in your favour that every time you denied it, the value went up, but if it was like a sort of robot talking to a robot, it's not going to happen quite that way. And the explanation, as I believe they said, hold on, let's see who this lost item belongs to. This is either Claude or Biscuits, which is, I saw Claude around here, so we can give it to him very quick. Oh, hold on, no, we can't talk to you until we give out this object. Actually, wait, you know, I never tried this. Can we just drop the object on the floor? Oh, hold on, you're talking to each other. When you're going to stop messing around and start planning for your future, Claude? Huh? My future? Like, with rockets and robots on the moon, maybe? No, Consano, your future isn't that all. What are you going to do what are you going to do with yourself when you grow up? I forgot about his voice. You gotta have a lot of dreams, right? Oh, yeah, I got dreams, alright. I want to find a big basket and tie lots and lots of balloons to it. Then I could go inside and take a nice nap. When I woke up, maybe I'd be on a whole new island. Wait, then I miss everyone. Aw, I don't like his dream. Some plan. See, it's stuff like this that makes me worry about you. No, he just cares. Do you like? Is this your object, Claude? Yeah. It's, the explanation is Audis. What? Soft printed fabrics between cartoon couches is so lumpy from being packed too full. How does that not sound like a lazy one? I mean, I guess a lazy one is always just covered in sweets and that sort of thing, but don't they read manga as well? Maybe they don't. I can't remember. Anyway, I did see that balloon over there, but I can't bother to go get it. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. Okay, let's change it to what's the T, sis? I don't know. Do people say T anymore? What? What? Sure, okay, we'll just say what, because apparently Joy-Con Drift didn't want me to type in the rest of it. What? Yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, it's because humans really overrate bad outcomes far more than good outcomes. So for the situation of a betting thing, losing £10, like, I'm not sure how to best explain this. Losing £10 monetarily is £10, but like emotionally is like losing like £50 to most people for some reason, and gaining £20 monetarily is gaining £20, but only emotionally like gaining £20. So from a monetary, a financial standpoint, taking the bet makes sense. From like an emotional standpoint, it's no good, because losing £10 feels so much worse than winning, which is probably, not to get such a depressing outlook on life now, but it's probably how gambling problems becomes a thing. Like, losing feels so much worse than winning, so to try and offset the bad feeling from losing, you gamble more to try and win, but the wins don't give you the same highs that winning used to. Gosh, this is depressing. Anyway, if we're all robots, I guess we wouldn't have emotions, so we wouldn't have to deal with these problems in the first place. So what I'm saying is basically kill your emotions. I'm joking, don't do that. Emotions are very useful to life and very, very good at motivating you, that sort of things, human connection, all that. They enrich your life. But you should also be aware of the logical side as well, I think, Logic and emotions, people always think they're at ends with each other. Nah, I think they go hand in hand with each other. They back each other up, And decisions, you gotta pay attention to both of them, because they're both important. But yeah, basically what I'm just trying to say is be more mindful about probability, and also be more mindful about emotions and your own well-being, Bam, bada bing, bada boom. See, go straight hand in hand. Same advice applies to both of them. What was I saying? Yeah, I don't know. It was just a funny story to me, learning about the XCOM thing, where it was just like, oh, the hard mode is they actually tell you the truth, and not big say swing for the fences and go the whole 9 yards, but like, what if you don't play hockey? Oh, there's some hockey. Wait, swing for the fences is baseball. You lied to me, Pascal. Go the whole 9 yards. I don't actually know where that's from. Let's see where that's from. Let's learn a little bit. Go the whole 9 yards. Where's it from? Meaning and origin. I clicked on the wrong one. Meaning and origin. Something happened to this page. Okay, Wikipedia. History. Oh, it's so long. World War II. Fabrics. Concrete mixer. Graves. Okay. I don't know. Sounds a lot more complicated than I initially anticipated. Apparently. Let's go give stuff to Apollo. Go give a gift to Apollo, and we will see. Oh, there's a gift. I guess we'll get this one because we're right here. Why not? And that's a red one. Was it red ones with recipes or green one with recipes? I don't remember. Yeah. I think it was just really interesting learning about the XCOM thing and the game dev behind the scenes. That it was like to portray a fair quote quote probability to the player. You actually have to lie to them and basically be like, oh, it's not as bad as it actually is. Or say say the probabilities are more skewed in the favour of the enemies than they actually are. Otherwise, because apparently just telling the truth feels bad in this sort of aspect. Isn't that weird? Which I suppose it just goes sort of hand in hand with so many sort of like game design decisions out there for that take place in video games for the benefit of a player, in some sort of game language sense. Like I talked about this in difficulty in games and that sort of thing, especially being able to portray difficulty correctly so the player actually chooses the difficulty that they should play rather than the difficulty that they think they want to play. Turns out, I was gonna say we as video gamers are dumb. No, maybe we as humans are dumb. But it's like dumb in different ways. What I said about it was kind of dumb, wasn't it? I mean, I've got to assume the fact we're so bad at probability is some sort of side effect from like some sort of feature, not feature. Feature is such a weird way to describe it. Some sort of intrinsic human thing we do in other aspects to like save time. It's like I can't remember, but there's another like human bodily function we're really bad at because we take shortcuts for some reason. It's something like the brain jumps to make oh yeah, it was like memorizing like list of things that you'll sometimes like remember things which weren't actually in the list. Like if I told you to remember like table, sofa, windows, doors, bed, and that sort. And then I just like listed off like more furniture items except for chair, and then I told you to memorize it, and then I was like later, hey, write down all the words you can remember. Lots of people write chair because to memorize those things in big numbers, we just sort of group everything together and be like, these are all furniture items, so then you write down all the furniture items you can remember rather than actually writing down the words you saw. You make shortcuts to save time to help your brain out and that sort of thing, and sometimes it comes back to bite you. And I've got to assume that's what the probability estimations are, is your brain just like rounding roughly, but I don't know. It's weird to say, because rather than like memory, you can also chalk up to being like, oh, there's so much information to remember, how else would you sort of divvy it up? You don't really have that with probability. It's like the numbers are right there in front of you. How else? Why would your brain interpret it incorrectly? But there's probably a good reason. It reminds me of this random website ages ago, I can't remember, where it's just like human beings are not random enough or something, where you basically fight, quote quote, against this robot. What you do is it's a simple coin. You as a human simulate flipping a coin, basically, but what you do is you type to robot heads or tails, and the robot, like, and you're meant to do that for like a string of 10 or something, and the claim is that humans are too predictable. In this sort of aspect, humans aren't random enough, and humans aren't good enough at simulating randomness, I suppose, in your head. So every single time that you type in heads or tails, it will guess before you, or not technically before you, but they guess, being like, they predict technically before you enter, but it doesn't seem like it because it's so quick, I suppose, on computers end, what you were going to type based off what you typed before. And from that, it's just like, it's scarily good how close it gets to predicting what you did, because I remember I tried it out ages ago. I don't know if I can even find it again, and I tried to outsmart it, being like, okay, I'm going to be unpredictable enough that the robot will not have a better chance than 50-50 of guessing what I'm saying. But it turns out every string I typed, the robot would get like 95% accuracy of what I was going to type next, and I was like, what? And it's just the thing, because it's collated all of its information from other humans also typing in like strings of heads and tails and that sort of thing. This is like human generated randomness is not very random. Because if you can try it now, like write down like 50 heads and tails flips, or like write down a string of 50 heads and tails, like flipped from a fair coin, and then flip 50 a coin 50 times, a fair coin 50 times, and write down the results, and you'll find out that the human simulated ones, what we tend to do is, because we tend to see things like strings of like 5 heads in a row or something, being like, oh, this is a bit improbable, so there's no way this could happen. So we tend to like sort of shy away from long strings of like one result over and over again. So you'll find in the human generated one, it'll be like, oh, the longest string of consecutive heads or tails is 4 or something, but in the actual simulated one, like using an actual coin, is like the longest one is like 8 or something. Because I guess we're too short. I was going to say short-brained, that's not really the word. We're too, like, short-term thinking. We're like, oh, it'd be really unlikely to have a stretch of, like, 8 heads in a row, so I'll just never put down 8 heads in a row. But in actuality, if you're flipping a coin 100 times or something, there's a decent chance that a string of 8 either heads or tails in a row will appear. Just probabilistically. But we as humans aren't very good at internalizing that. Isn't that weird? Let's see if I can find that website again. Website that predicts your heads tails sequence. Coin flip, nah, that's not it. It was ages ago, so I don't think I can find it again. But it was really weird. It was almost uncanny, and I suppose, you know, I wonder if that's like sort of awakening inside me, which is like, wow, probability's weird. Look how predictable we are as humans, and look how volatile actual statistics works in real life. Isn't that crazy? It's seriously one of the craziest things I ever think about. Just how bad we are at predicting probability. And this is me. I'm like someone who studied a lot of probability and statistics and that sort of thing, have a major in maths and all that. I studied a lot of it, and I still get it wrong all the time. Maybe not all the time, but I still, if I don't think about it, very easily fall into those same sort of traps. I'm not going to say it's scary, because I don't think it's all that scary. I guess it's easily exploitable. That part kind of gets scary, but it's just kind of strange. Human beings are just kind of weird. That's all I really got to say. So I don't know, I guess it's sort of my talk on my gambler's fallacy, but it's not really, but still. Yeah, I don't know. If you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join the Dear Darling Discord. Follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we can see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.